So, got it. Recording in progress. All right, folks, y'all know who I am. I am still the president, and we're going to go ahead and jump into our meeting for today. Happy Halloween, everybody. Anybody going out? Since we have time, anybody going out tonight, trick-or-treating or holiday parties?
It's supposed to rain.
Yeah. Jeremy, are you going with adults or are you taking kids?
Kids. Oh, I'm a single parent this week. My wife is in Mexico studying Day of the Dead.
Oh.
Studying, which means she's on a vacation paid for by her employer.
Nice. Day of the Day. What is Day of the Day?
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Oh, Day of the Dead.
Which is
Halloween. Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all got to work with me. Some stuff I know, there's a lot that I don't know, and I don't pretend to know anymore. I used to say, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And they would ask me a clarifying question. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't like to get into it. I don't like to, I'll ramble, which means I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But segue into, I'm taking my youngest out tonight too. I got my son, he's 6. I got a 6th grader and an 8th grade, 6th grade boy and 8th grade girl. So I'm standing there in the store. And actually my middle son, I'm all over. See, when you have 5 kids, it is hard to keep up with who the heck is doing what. So my younger 3, my 6th grade boy, my 8th grade girl, and my senior in high school boy, he went to a party this weekend. He dressed up as some character. I think it's from a show, Rick and Morty, which is like a cartoon. I've seen it a couple times. But he went to this party this weekend, and my younger son, I got him a Jason mask, the ski mask, and a sword, a bloody sword, and it's got like water bubbles in it, and it's like the blood flows through the sword. It's it's $10. It'll probably last about a week, but I'll just need it for one night. And then as we're there at the store, the 8th grade girl, I sent her a note. She wasn't with me. I said, hey, you want a costume for Halloween? She said, yes, I got a perfect white dress. Get me some angel wings. I'm gonna dress up as an angel. And I said, okay. And she said, oh yeah, don't forget the halo. Said, okay, cool. So go in there, I get the stuff. And her name is Jalen. But years ago, I gave her, okay. When she acted bad, we call her Malin. Okay, this came from me. This is bad parenting. I don't recommend it. It was her alter ego because she's sweet as she can be, but then she gets saucy. So we used to call her Malin, and then we shortened it to May. I shortened it to May, and it stuck. So I said, I have to rebrand her because this is awful. I stuck her with, and everybody else followed suit with the negative nickname. For years, everybody calls her May. So I said, I have to switch this. So I changed it to May. My angel every day. My angel every day. So I said, look, you got your wings, you got your outfit, you can wear it every day. Anyway, enough of my antics. I don't have a speech for today. So there you go. That was it. Let me pass it on to our Toastmaster of the day, who actually should be doing more speaking than I'm doing. That's going to be Jeremy Sugg. Y'all give it up for Jeremy. Take it away, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jamil. So, my first time as Toastmaster. I'm glad it's a small group of well-known participants who will be willing to work with me today. I really enjoyed the last meeting that I was at when David snuck in some facts about a caveman here and there while he was Toastmaster. I thought that was pretty nice. And so I thought today was a good day for me to jump in as Toastmaster because I just recently listened to a great podcast about the history of Halloween. So I'm going to sneak in some facts for you guys as we go about Halloween. So it all started with a Celtic holiday called Samhain, which was basically a holiday where they celebrated the end of the harvest season and the changing of the seasons. And they believed that at that time, the barrier between the two worlds, basically the world where, spirits were and things like that, and our world was at its thinnest point. And so on that day, souls of those who had passed away, but also scary things like fairies and whatever else, could pass between the two worlds on that day. And so it was a positive thing because you could commune with the dead, visit with those who had passed away, connect with them, those sorts of things. But it could also be a bad thing if you're exposed to fairies. And so people would dress up in costumes like animals and things like that to protect themselves from the fairies, basically, which is kind of crazy to think about fairies being a scary thing because we now think of like Tinkerbell, but apparently at that time, fairies were a bad thing. Like the Banshee, we've all heard of the Banshee. She's a fairy. With that, let's go ahead and jump into just a little introduction of how things are going to go. We are going to start off with one prepared speech that we have by Carla, and she will be evaluated by Jamil. And then we will jump into our table topics, which will be led by Valencia. Thank you, Valencia. And then we'll have our general evaluation, which I can take care of because it doesn't look like anybody has signed up for that. And with that, we do not have a grammarian at this point. Hey, Jasmeet.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I
haven't been to a couple of meetings in a while. Are you a visitor or are you a new member?
I'm a new member. I was in another club, but I recently joined a Southpark club because of the time conflict for me in the original club. So yeah, I'm a new member.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for joining us. And that's the problem with having a Toastmaster for the day who hasn't been to a meeting in a while. My apologies.
No worries. Thanks.
So, well, Jasmeet, are you familiar with the grammarian role?
I am, although I have not taken up any of the roles as of now. I'm planning to be more, more active and more involved in this. So I just need a little bit of learning to do, how things work and what am I supposed to do in each role. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't want to do anything today, that's perfectly fine. But if you do want to get some practice, since we've got a small group today, it's a great day to start. There's no time like the present. If you want to jump in as grammarian, we won't put any pressure on you to come up with a word of the day since it's kind of short notice, but you can count our ums and ahs for us if you're willing to.
Okay, I can give it a try.
All right, great.
Yes. And we can tag team it. Way to jump in, Jasmeet, and we're here to help and support each other. So if you have any questions, so you're keeping track of any uhs or ums or filler words. And I just put in a word of the day. The word of the day is called startle. And I just put it in the chat, right? Startle, Halloween theme. Y'all see what I'm doing here. And the definition of the word is to cause a person or animal to feel sudden shock or harm. So you're keeping up with us, ums, and if you can also see if anybody works in the word startle, okay?
Sure.
And then towards the end, when it's reporting time, when the timer gives gives their report, we'll also ask for a grammarian report too.
All right. Yeah. Quick question here. So, who's gonna count the ums and ahs when I'm giving a speech, or I'm participating in the table topic? Because I'm sure I would be using a lot of those. So.
I can count them for you, and then I'll send it to you in the chat, and you can give them in your overall report.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
We'll tag team it today. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much. Jasmeet, you startled me a bit whenever you jumped in. So
there you
go. We're gonna get back on track now.
There's one.
David is going to be our timer today. David, can you just tell us a little bit about the role of the timer?
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster. Did I hear right? This is your first time being Toastmaster?
That's correct.
That's great.
Long time member, first time Toastmaster.
Yeah, I think especially for work, this is the most important role there is, because this is what you do at work. You introduce people, you do presentations. So to me, also, you get to speak the most. Every time somebody needs a Toastmaster, I jump in because you get the most for your money. And then whenever somebody asks you to jump in, you have to practice and you're not startled. So you can do it. Now, as timer, it's like a traffic light. When you see the green light at 5 minutes, you just keep on going, keep on trucking. Then when you finally see the yellow light at 6 minutes, you got to decide if you're going to speed up or slow down. And at red, you know there might be a police around the corner, so you need to wrap it up, slow down, and finish your speech. And of course, table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. David, as an attorney, I have to advise you that that may not be the correct way to approach a traffic light, but we can talk about that more offline. Let's see, Valencia is going to be our topics master today. Valencia, can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Absolutely. And thankfully, there are no police watching, as I described. But that's great. I love the flow of the meeting so far. I just had to give that feedback. I will serve today as our table topics master and give prompts for impromptu speaking, which is what we normally do in the course of a day. You don't have time to prepare every time someone asks you a question. You have to be able to think on your feet. And if you can use the word of the day, we'll give you some kudos. I will lead us in table topics in our theme of the meeting and try not to startle any of you when I ask a question. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Valencia. And I believe we still don't have a general evaluator. So again, I can just jump in and wrap that into my role as Toastmaster. I will give a general evaluation of how the meeting went and introduce our evaluator, Jamil, for him to evaluate Carla's speech. And I also don't see that we have an invocation or joke master at this point. So unless anybody has a great joke that they want to share, I'm happy to just continue telling you a little bit more about the history of Halloween, because I think we can turn that into sort of an invocation as well. You know, a lot of people may think of Halloween as sort of a dark or demonic holiday, something like that. But like I said, it all started out with a holiday, a Celtic holiday, where people took it as an opportunity to connect with those who had passed on before. And similarly, as we mentioned before we got started, the Day of the Dead in Mexico is a similar holiday. That's one in which the people of South America would take an opportunity to connect with those who had passed on before them. And the two holidays are connected in another way, and that is that once the Catholic Church expanded into other places like Ireland and Latin America, they kind of appropriated those holidays, and they took the Catholic holiday of All Saints' Day, which used to be celebrated in the springtime. They moved it to November 1st so that it would fit with these other traditional holidays that were celebrated at the end of the harvest season, such as Samhain and Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos. And so then we get from that, the Catholic holiday was called All Saints' Day. And so the folks who celebrated Samhain would celebrate that the night before, and another day for Saints is Hallows, so we get All Hallows Eve, Halloween. Dia de Muertos is still celebrated on November 1st, but both of those are days where you can remember those who have passed on before you. Now, certainly we would, like to do that every day, but if it suits you, today would be a great day to just pay a remembrance to those who have gone on before you, try to connect with them a little bit, and be appreciative for what they have shared with you that's helping you out in every day of your life. And with that, we will move on to our first prepared speech by Carla. Carla, if you're ready to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Her speech is, so she is on the Understanding Your Communication Style project from the Presentation Mastery Pathway. And the title of her speech is Square Peg, Round Hole. This is a speech in which she assessed her communication styles and will be speaking about that. Carla, if you're ready, take it away. Oh, Carla is frozen. Looks like she's back now. Carla, are you ready to go?
Hold on a second.
No worries.
I am losing my signal, so I'm going to go on my phone and turn this off.
Okay.
It startled me once she had dropped off right when it was time for her speech.
That was a great Halloween echo. Perfect.
No, we can't.
You're
You're muted.
You're muted on
Muted.
your phone.
Both on the phone and on the computer. You have to unmute one of them. Oh no.
Okay, I have to hang up my phone. Hold on. So I really apologize for slowing this down. I'm trying to cancel my Zoom. It's not allowing me. Can you guys hear me? Oh, this problem.
Just throw the phone out the door.
Really? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The evil spirit had gotten into her phone. Let's give her another introduction, Jeremy, so it gives herself a chance to reacclimate.
No worries. Yeah, Carla, take some deep breaths while I remind everyone that Carla is speaking from the Presentation Masteries Pathway. She is on the Understanding Your Communication Style project. The title of her project is Square Peg, Round Hole. And this is a speech in which she assessed her communication styles, did a self-test, and according to her own introduction, she says she failed the test. I don't know how that's even possible, Carla, but I'm sure you'll let us know, and we're excited to hear about it.
Thank you very much. I do want to say I was quite startled when it froze up. It's the second time it's frozen up. I have only old-fashioned cable at this house, so sometimes it just, especially when it rains, it doesn't seem to cooperate. So yes, Jeremy and everyone, thank you for letting me speak to you about my experience of doing this module. Jasmeet, if you're new, you haven't done it. Most of you have probably done the module on evaluating your communication style. It identifies 4 different styles: which are directing, initiating, supporting, and analyzing. And for those of you who already taken, if you don't remember it, you can go back and reread it. Jasmine, I'm not going to bore you with the details of what all those mean. What I am going to tell you is I took that quiz, I got the results, and I felt a lot of angst, and I thought it was really stupid, and I thought that it just didn't meet me. I felt a little bit more like Frankenstein communicator, and I pulled a piece from here, a piece from here, a piece from here, and a piece from here. So in honor of Halloween, I can say today I am a Frankenstein communicator. So with that in mind, I did not think, and I read the module twice, that it was a good module, but it did get me to think about what did I want to be as a communicator. And as a communicator, I came up with 3 things that I thought I needed to improve. The first one was to know my audience. The second one was to listen more, listen better, and talk less. And the third one was to get better as a communicator with work and practice. And that is one of the reasons I joined Toastmaster. Some of the things I've learned since I've been in Toastmaster really would have helped me in my career. I truly do believe that successful leaders are successful communicators. I truly believe that we're not really born like that, and we don't necessarily get it really modeled. You do have to work at it. And with that in mind, I want to tell you about in more detail my 3 points. The first thing is that, as I said, to be a better communicator, I have to know my audience. How many times you just go in, you just start talking, you don't really know what you're talking about, you don't know really what their needs are? Well, I have done that. And I've spoken to audiences of 1, family, friends, whatever, and I've spoken to audiences of 500, 750 in big auditoriums. I had a lot of energy, I had a lot of enthusiasm, but I wasn't necessarily always absorbing and paying attention to what the audience wanted. And as an example of this, I want to tell you about an almost career-altering mistake I made as a communicator, and it was not in a good way. I would go around the country and I was teaching about new telecommunication technology. Now, I brought a show and tell. I know to most of you, this does not look like new telecommunication technology, but when I was working, this was new telecommunication technology. In particular, this little thing, which is called a switch hook, this allowed a person to use a single line phone set with 1 line and take 2 calls. You guys are probably thinking, some of you, that sounds ridiculous. Of course, you could always do that. No, you couldn't do that. So I had the same story. I talked to 50 different places in the country. I would say, with this phone, you can be talking to your wife, hit the switch hook if another calls in, and be talking to your girlfriend. It always got a laugh. It might not be PC, politically correct today, but it was politically correct then. And so this worked great until I went to Salt Lake City, Utah. In about a meeting of about 20 different managers, I did the same thing, and it was met with complete silence. I did not know why. It didn't make any sense to me, but I just kept on going, being my friendly self and talking all about technology and how we were going to go and help them. And when that session, it was a 2-day meeting, when that portion was over with, the senior-most person in that facility came over and took me aside and said that he had gotten complaints and I had insulted them, and I had no idea what I really did. And he told me that they found it very disrespectful that I would think you could talk to your wife and have a girlfriend at the same time. So my next session, I apologized in the best way I could. It did lessen the tension, and I did take onus on myself. But I learned from that. Lesson learned. Know your audience. The second thing I did is I sort of found a way to get to know your audience. There's lots of literature on how to get to know your audience, but I came up with what I call the SODA method, SODA. The first thing is smile and be sincere. If you are open, people are going to come into you and be more honest with you. The second part, O, is to observe. Watch how other people are behaving and understand that. The third one is to do the work. Do the research, use intel, get information, gather that and know that. And the fourth one is to ask questions. With that in mind, I think that the SOTA method works for many people to know their audience. The second point is to be a better listener and to talk less. That second part is really hard for me. I'm going to give you an example when I was not a great listener. My manager called me into his office. He had a critical presentation. It was politically a hot ball, and he asked me to review it. I looked at it. I gave him very direct feedback that what he was doing was political suicide, and I told him how to fix it or suggested how to fix it. It was a fall day. I started looking outside at the trees. He said, "Oh, this is great. Let me think about it." I guess I heard some talking in the background. I did not hear one word he said until the change of tone said, "You need to do this, okay?" So I walked out of there not knowing what he said, and I had to go back. So I didn't listen. And so I started practicing listening by doing the 70 word method. When I went in to hear what someone was saying, I gave myself 70 words that I could say in a half hour's time. That way I focused on what they were saying and not what I was saying. The third thing that I said is that practice. Again, there's lots of literature on how to practice, but what I would say is that when I retired, I got a lot of accolades, that I was a good leader, that I was people-oriented, that I was this and that. But what I really realized is that in hindsight, had I studied how to be a better communicator, I would have been a better leader. I don't know what I would have succeeded at or achieved, but I would have been better. So when you look at yourself and you ask yourself, how can I be a better communicator? One of the things you're doing for yourself is you're coming to Toastmasters. And I find that to be very beneficial. I actually came up with a fourth thing, and that is to be intentional. Be intentional in how you're going to be in terms of being a leader. I'm only doing that now, and I've already retired twice from careers. So I don't know what it's going to do for my third career. Last but not least, I want to leave you with a quote. And the quote is, I'll read it: "Great leaders communicate and great communicators lead." If you have a goal to be better and do better, Toastmasters and all these other tools are good for you to use. And I look forward to seeing where this journey takes you. Think about what you want and take action. Do it. Be intentional. Listen, learn, and pay attention to your audience. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, Carla. That was not only informative, but inspirational. So I'm going to tell you real quick a little bit more about the history of Halloween. So I mentioned a moment ago that the Catholic Church kind of appropriated Samhain, and one of the things associated with the Catholic holiday of All Saints' Day was individuals going around from house to house agreeing to pray for the souls of your loved ones. And this started out with beggars. They would do it in exchange for food. And eventually it became a thing where small children would dress up as beggars and put soot on their face and things like that. And they would go from house to house, and in exchange for little cakes called soul cakes, they would agree to pray for the souls of your family members who had passed on. And so that's where we get the first tradition of trick-or-treating. When the Catholic Church, when England decided to break with the Catholic Church, it kind of put a squash on All Saints' Day, but the Irish continued to celebrate what had essentially become All Hallows Eve in Ireland. And so when the Great Potato Famine happened and large numbers of Irish folks left Ireland and came to the US, they brought all of those traditions with them. And so that's when we see Halloween first moving over to the United States. So we'll move on to our table topics portion of the meeting, and I will hand it over to Valencia to give us some great table topics. Thank you, Valencia.
Thank you, Jeremy, Mr. Toastmaster. All of these spooky facts lead me right into our table topic session. Now, I'm not sure if you've had table topics in this fashion. However, I hope that you're not startled, but enjoy. We are going to tell some spooky stories. I will call on you to finish the story I start. And actually, I'll call on you after I start the story. So you don't know if it's going to be you. You ready? Outside our door, there was a package. I ripped off the paper and opened the box. When I reached my hand into the box, I felt something hairy and quickly pulled my hand out of the box again. I peeked into the box and a green eye stared back at me. David Jones.
And the green eye was a rabbit who just came up through the hole with a young girl by the name of Alice chasing after him. He was running and running and kept checking his watch, thinking he was going to be late to something, but he didn't say what it was. All the while, Alice was trying to catch him, but she couldn't. He was way too fast because he's a rabbit. And he ran around the corner, and when I looked around the corner, I saw Jeremy.
You saw a blast of light, and we all realized that we were tripping on something that we had eaten because we ate candy from a stranger and we should not have. And the place that we got that candy from was, Jamil?
The place that we got that candy from was this random man walking down the street with a basket full of candy. Now, he looked like he had money. He didn't look homeless, but he definitely looked strange. He had a beard that was all the way down past his belly. He had hair that was all kind of frazzled. Even looking at him, you would be startled. But he had the best candy, though. He had chocolate, he had peanut M&Ms, he had Snickers, he had Reese's. He had the best candy. He didn't give out just apples and celery sticks and stuff like that I tell my kids, don't go to that house. You ain't gonna get no good stuff. Not that type of treat. He had the best candy. So we felt compelled to go and get some of this amazing candy. And he seemed so nice. He said, come on, hey, would you like some candy? Now, he had this sketchy look. The sketchy look was undeniable, but the candy, we had to indulge ourselves to the point, we ate so much to the point that Jazz meat.
So we ate the candies to the point that we stayed up all night throwing up, and most of us were in the bathroom, and some of us had to call the doctor and get the prescription medicines. And the next morning was terrible. For the following morning was terrible for everyone, especially for those of us who had to work, and for the kids who also had some of those candies, and they had to miss school because of those awesome candies. And we had to go back to Valencia.
Yes, we did have to go back to Valencia because you all took that story all the way around this room, and now I'm starting a new one. I woke up by the sound of a bang. It came from the basement. I'm from the Midwest. We have basements in the Midwest. So I went down to see what it was. I tiptoed up to the basement door, quietly opened it, and then I saw Carla.
I saw nothing because it was completely black. Then I heard a bang again. I was totally startled. All of a sudden, I heard another bang, and then my home alarm system went off. What was going on? Was someone breaking into my house? Then the police are calling me while the alarm's going off and saying, what do you want me to do? I said, get here. There's something in my basement. It's banging around. It's terrifying. The light, I don't want to even turn the light on. And the police said, shut the door, block it. Don't go down there. We'll be there. In a minute, I heard the sirens going. I still hear the banging. My alarm's still going off. The police arrive at my house. They surround the house. They come in, knock on the door, tell me to let them in. They come in and they pull out their guns. And now they're opening the basement door because they want to go down and see what is doing all this banging. The policemen open the door. They scream out, police, show yourself. And then, Jeremy.
And then I was finally able to get out of the basement. I was down there banging forever, and you guys wouldn't let me out. And I was so annoyed. I was down there in my bathrobe. I had come over to ask Charlotte, to ask Carla if I could borrow some coffee because I can't do anything in the morning without my coffee, and I had run out. So her front door was locked. I thought I would try the basement door. I know Carla well enough that that's not a big deal. Something fell over, a ladder, I think, blocked the door, and I was down there banging, trying to get out. I heard you guys making all that noise, but you just wouldn't let me out. It was really annoying. So the cops think that I'm a bad guy. They arrest me, and so I have to call David.
Well, the reason the police arrested you was because Carla was doing a little prank on you. She told the police she didn't know who you were. She never seen you before. She thought you were some crazy homeless guy that was giving out psychedelic candy to kids. She wasn't really sure who you were. And the police took you in for interrogation. And when you got to the police station, they had to fingerprint you and they had you empty your pockets. And they, sure enough, were full of psychedelic candy. They got all sorts of people in different states of mind. And with that, they turned it over to Jamil.
So this became a mess. It became kind of crazy. David's there trying to rescue Jeremy, who's on lockdown, for busted up in Carla's house, trying to get some coffee in the bathrobe, didn't even take the decency to get dressed before you come over. Now you can get dressed before you come over for some coffee, but this became a mess. And then finally, the police realized, Carla finally stepped back in and said, okay, look, after she got the call from David, because David wasn't able to get anywhere, Carla was the homeowner. David said, Carla, you got to come down here and straighten this out because he was in your house. You're the one that called the police. So Carla comes down with a piece of the psychedelic candy, and she's trying to explain that it's fine. I know both of these guys. It's fine. Wow, look at that bunny rabbit. Oh my gosh. Am I on Mars? Oh, wait, what was I saying? It's fine. Let them both go. It was a mistake. No issue. I have the coffee that you're looking for, Jeremy. And after that, everybody was able to go back home. And then Valencia said,
I didn't think I was going to die on the Day of the Dead of laughter. I can't even talk. I'm crying. Okay, I can't take any more of this. I need to turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day. Thank you for participating in Table Topics. It was so much fun.
And the evil spirits just turned Jeremy's lights off. What's going on here?
Really?
It concerns me that so many people.
Oh, she froze up. The spirits are going crazy. We got to get off this call. It's going to be bad. Everybody just go home. If you're not home already, go home.
Well, maybe we'll get to hear what concerns Carla in a minute.
She's still on that candy.
This call, having a, just I'm sure they've read about it, experience about psychedelic.
I thought that's what was going to concern her, the amount of psychedelics that were mentioned.
She's still tripping.
That's the first thing that comes to mind for me, though, when somebody mentions a white rabbit. So
you mean not the Matrix? No, just kidding.
You're right. You're right. All right. Well, that was awesome, Valencia. Thank you very much. And I will just briefly mention that if anyone has ever tried improv, that is a little bit of a sample of what improv is like. Just free flowing, take what your partner gives you, don't give it a second thought, and just go with it. It's a great tool to learn how to just trust yourself and let go and live in the moment. I really appreciate that. So, moving into the general evaluation portion, Carla, sorry, you were breaking up a little bit. We didn't hear exactly what concerns you other than the fact that I think it was the number of people who mentioned psychedelics.
I mean, I am from the 60s and 70s, but I was still surprised.
So moving into the general evaluation portion, I will first hand it over to Jamil for his evaluation of Carla's speech.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. Carla, square peg, round hole. One of the things I want to say first is it finally looks like you are very comfortable delivering a speech. That was the most comfortable that I believe that I've seen you in your prior speeches. This number 4. Okay. So when you delivered the content, you had several different points. You had 3 points on how you were talking about your communication style and how at first you didn't really like the module. However, you did start to think after you had gone through the module, and then you wanted to think about how you wanted to be, what type of leader you wanted to be. You gave several different points. You wanted to listen more. You wanted to know your audience. You wanted to get practice doing things, and you wanted to be intentional. You gave all kind of different things for us to work on, and it was very practical, as Jeremy mentioned earlier. So whether you're a leader or just a self-employed, whether you're a worker, these are all different things that we need to be able to do. We all need to be able to listen better. We all need to get to know our audience and then listen to them as they give feedback. So I felt like your examples and then your brief explanations were very helpful. Also, you went into another segment where you talked about the SOTA method, which I picked up on the S and the D and the A. Can you give me the O real quick? I missed it. I was observe. Observe. Okay. Observe. See, this is how I was able to see, like, yeah, she's really in her element, because she's just rifling off all kind of different practical tools and examples, it was very comforting to see that you're able to do that. And you come across very confident. Your eye engagement was pretty good for the most part. There was a couple times you had to look away at your notes, but it wasn't long and drawn out. So that was good. Anytime you see people referencing their notes, that's normal, but you don't want to come across as dependent on your notes, which I didn't get that from you. So one of the things I would say to take it to the next level is, since you had so much content, I would probably either go and stay only on the 3 examples and not add the SOTA method. And that way I would do it either as 2 different speeches, because it's really, you could spend a lot more time on either one of those 2. And you didn't spend a ton of time on the SOTA method, but my interest was piqued, like, okay, it would be great to hear more about this particular aspect of it. But it was still, it felt like you were a little bit rushed trying to get all this great content into 5 to 7 minutes, which can be a challenge. I know I run into that all the time as I'm giving my evaluation. I tend to get lengthy as I see the red indicator. So going forward, I would say maybe trim out a little bit of your content. Hopefully you're able to hear this. If not, I'm going to give a written assessment. But great job in doing that, and I look forward to hearing the future speeches. All righty. With that, I'll pass it back over to the Toastmaster of the day, or our general evaluator, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jamil. So I forgot to mention a moment ago, before I brought us over to the US, the trick part of trick-or-treating. So those little kids that were going from door to door asking for treats in exchange for praying for the souls of those who had passed away. As kids do, if they didn't get what they want, they might decide to play a trick on you instead. So over in jolly old England or Ireland, they would put a stick of celery in the keyhole of your door, light it on fire, and apparently that would just fill your house with smoke. That's not cool. Another great trick they would play is they would take a gourd, carve a scary face in it, put a light in it, and hide it somewhere around your house, your doorstep or whatever. So you come home and you see this bright, shining, scary face, and you're startled by it. That's where we get jack-o'-lanterns. They're called jack-o'-lanterns because I'm sure you've all heard of Jack, who was a trickster. The devil didn't want him to come to hell, but he obviously wasn't going to heaven either. So he was just left to linger about the world as a lost soul. The only thing that the devil would give him was one coal from hell. He took that and put it in a gourd, and that was how he lit his way through the world for the remainder of eternity, I guess. Anyways, that's where we get jack-o'-lanterns. All of that came over to the US. And with that, I will hand it over to David for our timers report.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I'm actually very familiar with Dawn of the Dead. I watched a really good documentary that I would recommend called Coco. It's by Pixar. It'll tell you everything you need to know. And let's see, Carla came in a little bit long. Her time for her speech, 5 to 7 minutes, was 7:53. And Jamil was 2 to 3 minutes. He came at 3:23, so he just qualified with the 30-second buffer. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. We love Coco in our house. I think I can watch it at this point without crying, but it's still a little bit difficult. And I will pass it over to Jasmeet for our grammarian report.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. To be honest, I did not hear any ums and ahs or filler words from any of you, and as well as neither from Carla. I tried to be attentive, but I did not notice any. The word of the day was used quite often. It was used 2 times by Jeremy, 1 time by David, 2 times by Carla, 2 times by Jamil, and 2 times by Valencia. My apologies if I missed any, but I tried to note them down. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great job.
Yes, thank you very much, Jasmeet. And either you are being very kind or you logged on after I got going, because I know I had a lot of ums before we got started. Or maybe you just missed them. Either way.
I could have, yes.
Thank you very much. There we go. way to get one, squeeze one more out, right?
That was a good one too.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that concludes our meeting because we did not collect any ballots. As always, feel free to put any comments in the chat. If you want to send any comments directly to anyone, feel free to do so.
Your report, general eval.
Oh, thank you very much. So I have also never served as a general evaluator, but I will just say that I think the meeting went great. We had technical issues, which is not a surprise. It happens. I thought the Toastmaster did a wonderful job. He had lots of fun facts for us, including, to finish out, the fact that once all of those Halloween traditions came over to the United States with the Irish, who at that time were thought to be lower class, largely because they were Catholic, and the United States at that time was largely Protestant. So the Irish did not get a lot of jobs that that people wanted. They got the jobs that people did not want. They ended up, a lot of them being maids and things like that. And so all of these housewives started noticing these Halloween traditions that their maids and folks like that were celebrating. And they said, oh, that's really cute. We should do that. And they started having Halloween parties, and that caught on. More and more housewives read about that in women's magazines and things. And suddenly Halloween blew up to what we now something like what we now celebrate today. I can't imagine that a Celtic druid back in ancient times celebrating Samhain would have expected that we would now celebrate it by my daughter dressing up as Elsa and running from door to door in our neighborhood as fast as she can to get as much candy as she possibly can. But that's where we are. And with that, I will hand it back over to our presiding officer, Jamil, to close out the meeting. Oh, Jamil said he will be back in 1 second.
Lindsay, it comes Dan's forth.
I was just going to say, while everybody is waiting, please take the opportunity as soon as this meeting is over with to sign up for a role. However, next week, which is the 7th, is our open house. We will be providing, right, I'm correct, it's the 7th. We will be providing refreshments on site, and our meeting will be longer. We have a keynote speaker coming in. We will be putting up information on this as officers in the next few days. Think about any friends or family you might like to have join us, and come on out. We'll still do it. We will be back to hybrid, where we'll have in-person and Zoom both. So whether you're in or out of town, you can do both. We have, Jasmine, we have people in this club who do not live in the Charlotte area at all.
Aren't elections next Tuesday?
Yeah, we're Monday.
Yeah, but it seems like it'd be crowded and busy there.
Isn't it this?
They're not hosting elections at Southpark.
Oh, they're not? Oh, okay.
At the library.
Gotcha.
It's an early voting location, but not
regular voting. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sure that'll surprise some people. That's the first place I ever voted when I moved to Charlotte. It was a long line. I found other places after that.
Greg confirmed it in the chat.
Not a regular precinct. Good deal. Well, great meeting. All I don't want to reiterate the same thing that Jeremy said, but it was a great meeting, so I guess I will. Great creative table topics. Haven't done that type in a while. It's always fun. And great job for Jeremy and Jasmine jumping into roles for the first time. Like, that's always that thing where you don't really know until you actually dive in and do it. And it, as you can see, it does not have to be perfect. This is where we learn. This is where we have a great supportive environment. And if there's any miscues, if you miss anything, I miss stuff all the time. My mind is just, it is what it is. But, now you have a better understanding as you've done it. And you both did great jobs. And Carla, great job with your speech. Number 4, you're right there knocking on the door of completing this path. So proud of you for doing that. And I'm not sure if you guys already stated it, but we will be back for our open house next week. That might have been right when I was joining, you guys were saying that. So it will be hybrid. So we will have an in-person presence. We'll be back in our regular room, and we're going to have some healthy goodies. And I think we're doing pizza too. Pizza's healthy. It's got cheese, it's got dairy, right? Oh yeah. No, we're not doing pizza. We're not
Wrong party.
Wrong party. See, it's that candy that I had earlier on that table topics. It's got me all messed up. Psychedelic candy. So great job all. Thank you all. I want you all to have fun tonight. Be careful of the guy walking down the street. He's a real nice guy, but he got good candy. It's not good. Just steer away. Other than that, y'all have a great rest of the week, and I will talk to y'all soon.
I just hope we're not foretelling something.
We're not.
I don't want to read anything in the news tomorrow.